Hello everyone, my name is Midnight Moon, and since chapter 4 and 5 were so short, I decided tonight I would also do chapter 6 and 7, and if I have time, I will do chapter 8. Enjoy! Chapter 6. I stayed in the hospital for 2 more weeks before they finally let me go home. I was surprised to find out that the hospital wasn't in the town I was currently living in. It was a 3-hour drive from the hospital to my house, but I managed. I went straight to the kitchen to get some coffee to wake up some, and saw one of the windows broken in my side. I would have to pay for that later. I sipped on my coffee as I looked through my fridge. Most of the food was old or moldy, so I had to throw most of my food out. After that was done, I had to look through 3 weeks' worth of mail. Most of it was junk, but some of it was bills and other related things. I got a call from my boss, and I told him I'd be back at work soon. I sit down on my worn-down couch and stare at the pitch-black TV screen in front of me. After a few moments, which seemed to last forever, I got up to take a shower. I felt so filthy, and wanted more than anything to take a nice, hot shower. I got clean clothes and got into the shower before stripping down. Shower after stripping down. I smiled at the feel of nice hot water against my beaded and battered skin. I made sure to wash carefully around my wounds, and then stood there for who knows how long, soaking in the water. I then washed my hair quickly and got out. I dressed in the clothes that I had picked out and looked in the mirror. I looked like I hadn't slept in days. After that nice refreshing shower, I went to my room to rest. I nearly screamed when I saw my computer screen smashed. I ran over to it and felt panic race through me in waves. I looked over my bed and searched for my journal. I tore my bed apart and found it resting in the last place I put it. I opened the book and began to flip through the pages. A giant wave of relief washed over me as I realized that it was fine. I sat down on my bed and hung the journal tightly against my chest. I sighed and put the book back into its designated spot. I fixed up my bed and tried to relax. I heard the doorbell ring and I took in careful breaths. I carefully walked down the hall as if there was a monster sleeping at the end of it. I looked at the peephole in the door and felt relieved. I locked the door and smiled. The police officer standing in the doorway smiled at me politely. I and several other officers will be stationed outside your house tonight. If you need anything, just yell, he said. He smiled, and I began to walk away from my porch. And I closed the door behind him and peeked out the window. Sure enough, there was a cop standing outside the window. I sighed and walked in the kitchen. I prepared another cup of coffee and looked at the clock on the wall in my kitchen. It was about 7 at night. I took my coffee and took another sip. I really shouldn't be having coffee this late at night. But there's no harm in it, I guess. I sighed and finished up my coffee as quickly as I could. I grabbed my purse and started walking to the front door. I informed the police outside that I was going out for a little bit. I drove to a park surrounded by forest a couple miles away. I got in my car and decided to walk around the park. I walked through the park looking at the scenery. The trees were decorated with extravagant oranges and reds. There were leaves scattered on the ground dancing when the breeze blew. The nice autumn air blows. It's cool, but just warm enough so that it doesn't make you shiver. I looked towards the forest, an edge and I freeze in my place. By the edge of the trees is a man wearing a white jacket and black pants. I could feel my heart beat quicken as I saw him look towards me. I turned around and sprint back to my car, hoping to escape him. I see him chasing after me, and I close my eyes while I run. Just run, just run, just run. I get to my car and quickly unlock the doors. I climb to the driver's seat and lock the door cars behind me. I look out the window, watching the forest edge carefully. When I saw his figure disappear into the trees, I sit down in my seat. I grab my knees and bring them to my chest. I cried silently in that position, thinking about my last encounter with him. I leaned back in my seat and gazed out the rearview mirror. I put a hand over my chest, attempting to cover up my accelerated heartbeat. I take in raged breaths as I try to calm myself. When I decide that I have calmed down, I start the car and drive back home. I go back home in a daze, and I recognize things around me, but they all seem like foggy memories. The only memories fresh in my head are those memories of pure agonizing pain. I feel tears surface my eyes and quickly wipe them away. I get back to my house and lock the door behind me. I set my back against the door and I closed my eyes as I slid to the ground. I sat down on the wooden floor and I was finally able to calm down. I heard the wind blow through my house and I slowly opened my eyes. My heart began to beat and I looked around the room. I looked to see nothing. I swear I saw him out of the corner of my eye. I took in raged breaths and tried to calm down again. I just couldn't calm down no matter how much I tried to. I got up off the floor and went into the kitchen. I knew that I didn't want to stay in that same spot. Something kept yelling at me that I should just leave, but I decided just to get coffee. I prepared another thing of coffee and got out a mug. I poured the coffee and I chugged it. I heard a chuckle, then something or someone whispered in my ear. Someone's thirsty. The voice was deep and raspy. I dropped my coffee mug and turned around. There was nothing there. I looked at the broken mug on the floor. I swept the kitchen thoroughly and left for the fear of stepping on any pieces. I walked into my room to rest and get the night off my mind. There was nothing there. I need to stop being so sensitive. I sit down on my bed and took out my journal. I made a quick entry in it, then put it back. I got under the covers and took in a deep breath. I just wanted to go to sleep and relax. I turned off the lamp next to my bed and waited for sleep to arrive and take me to that haven. Chapter 7. I'm back to working, and despite the minor paranoia that I have, I'm doing fine. On the way home, I seem to not be able to sit still. I feel like I've been watched constantly, and I want to just scream and shoot a gun everywhere. However, that would only lead to absolute last resort if I was suddenly the only person on Earth. I try to relax in my seat and just drive home to my police-protected house. I watched real carefully since I'm in a daze. I manage to get in my driveway, but I don't remember most of the drive home. I don't think about it. I just go into my house as quickly as possible. I sat once inside and locked the door hastily. I smile and set my bag and purse on the couch. I walk in the kitchen and start brewing my coffee for the night. I seem to have picked up the famous adult addict of coffee recently, mostly because it keeps me awake and alert, which doesn't hurt when you have a killer after you. I go into my bedroom and set a clean pair of clothes on the bed. I pull up my journal from a new hiding spot and find my way back into the kitchen. I grab a mug from the cabinet and set it on the counter. I get out some milk and pour my coffee into the mug along with some milk. I lean against the counter and sip my coffee while looking around the room. My eyes fell upon a swinging piece of glass from the broken glass. I watch it as it slowly comes to a halt. I shrug and put the milk back into the fridge. I grab my coffee and walk slowly into the living room. One of the windows was open, which made me shake slightly. I looked around the room and slowly walked over to the window. I quickly shut the window and hurried over to my bag. I quickly opened it and took a moment for me to grasp what I was seeing. I took a moment of quick breaths, but I screamed at what was in my bag. It was the severed head of a child, carefully wedged in between the walls of the bag. I stepped away from the bag and took a quickened breath as I looked around the room. I was over the island in my kitchen and saw the garage door opening. Sorry, I was standing at my desk. I screamed again when a figure in the white jacket appeared. I fell to my knees when I looked up to see if the person was there. He was gone. I picked myself up and collected myself as I walked into my bedroom. I stopped in the doorway and remembered the coffee I dropped into the carpet. I sigh and grab a towel. I go back into the living room and place the towel over the soon-to-be stain. I went back to my room and placed my journal in its spot. I grabbed my clothes and went straight to the bathroom. I stepped and turned on the shower and hop in. I quickly wash up and get dressed in the clean clothes. I washed my face and removed any makeup that I had on. I brushed my teeth, then left the room, drying my hair with a towel. I went to the living room and looked at the bed that held the child's head. I gulped and carefully walked over to the head. It was gone. However, there was still blood drenching the bag. I shivered and picked up the bag, emptied it, then threw it into the washing machine along with his weak, sturdy clothes. I put in the soap inside the machine. I took out my phone and set an alarm for about 2 hours from now. I sighed and put it on the charger in my bedroom. I went back into the living room and lifted up the towel I had been using to clean up the coffee. I felt the stain and it was dry. I would have to use some stain remover stuff later. I brewed another cup of coffee and sat on the table slowly drinking it. I watched the piece of glass begin to sway again in the window. I don't like how loose that piece of glass is. I stood up and left my coffee on the table. I went over to the window and looked at the piece of glass. It looked as if it was barely on there at all. I put my hand through the part still attached to the window and began to pull. I got a cut in the process, but I was able to get the piece out. I put the piece in the trash and then continued to thoroughly wash my hand. I wrapped it in a bandage, then went back to drinking my coffee. After I finished my cup for the evening, I decided just to go to bed. I didn't want to be bothered by any more of whatever it was that was haunting me. I yawned and crawled into bed without another thought. I left my phone on the desk and I closed my eyes. I yawned again and realized I left my bedroom door open. I turned over and saw another thing invading the room. It was the hallway light. I sat and decided to watch for a little bit longer. "Still awake, are we?" I heard a deep voice whisper in my ear. I jolted out of the bed and looked at the side of my bed. There was no one there. I searched my room and made sure that the window was not going to open. Then I closed my door and locked it. I placed my chair against it and walked back to my bed. I felt better as long as I felt okay. It'll be fine in my mind. I closed my eyes once again and felt the warmth of the blanket, protecting me from the air conditioner. I smiled at the feeling of safety surrounding me. I yawned again and felt sleep take me over to an even safer haven. I woke up, but I didn't feel like I was awake. I grabbed my phone and looked at the time. It was only 2 a.m. I shrugged and was about to walk to my closet when I heard another loud thud. A rather loud thud. I turned around and I was met by a man wearing a white jacket. I walked backwards, panicked, starting to take immediate action. I was going to scream, but no sound would come out. He pulled down his hood, revealing the hideous face of Jeff. Blood started dripping down from cuts on his cheek from the permanent smile. I felt the urge to gag and throw up as the stench of death filled my nose. I held back the urge to barf right there. He laughed and pulled out his knife, which was covered in someone's blood. "I told you that I'd come back. And here I am. Now it's time for you to go to sleep," he said on the verge of laughter. I started shaking and my breathing quickened significantly as my back pressed against my door. I turned around and began to mess with the doorknob. The door wouldn't open. I turned around again and felt something cold pressed against my neck. I saw Jeff in my face with his knife pressed against my neck. I could feel the end coming, and tears flooded my eyes. He laughed and removed the knife. "Maybe I should have some fun before making the final blow," he said mockingly. I started shaking as he began to make deep cuts in my arms. Anytime I tried to scream, nothing would come out, making my horror seem to not be there at all. He lifted the knife above his head and swung. I woke up with a scream. I put a hand over my heart and tried to calm my breathing. I reached over the bedside table and turned on the lamp. I screamed when I saw the sight in my window. Several men's heads were stacked in a pyramid with the message on the window glass. The game's only just beginning. Jeff the Killer.